Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ian Miller, and I'm here today with my very good friend from Dark Space Studio. Please welcome Tod Rayner. Todd,
Thank
welcome back to
you.
the show.
Thanks for having me on again. It's always fun chatting with you.
Absolutely, especially about all things comics, including your comic. And we've had Todd on before to talk about his comic series, Ice Pick and Annabelle, which had very good, successful Kickstarter campaigns. He's now back with his new comic, Luke Bluetooth Issue 1. So, Todd,
Yeah,
why don't you fill everybody in about what the comic's all about and where it's set in the Ice Pick universe?
absolutely. So for fans of Ice Pick or Annabelle, any of those people that have backed those books or read those books, bought them over the years, this is literally still in the same universe. It is Luke, which they would all be familiar. Prior fans are going to be familiar with Luke. He's in Ice Pick and Annabelle, and through the revelations of what happens in Annabelle, which is not required reading to understand what's going on with Luke. I try to make sure that my stories are self-contained. So these 4 issues of Luke will be a self-contained story, but they do have Ice Pick and Annabelle definitely show up and kick some superhero butt. But for Luke, this story is really about him finding more about who he is and about his parents. We learn a little bit about that in Annabelle, and it's kind of a revelation in that story arc. And at the end of Annabelle, they kind of go their separate ways. They defeat the bad guy, and they're like, "All right, cool. I need to get away. This was like a crazy couple days." And Luke ends up just heading back home, and he's like, "You know what, guys? I got to get out of town. I'm going to go to Salem, Massachusetts, because we find out that Luke's parents were in a witch coven." And Luke's like, "Whoa, wait a minute. What does that mean? Like, what's the lore behind witches and all these things?" And there's a lot of that kind of gets revealed in Annabelle. So Luke just takes off to Salem because he's like not the smartest guy, obviously. But he's like, what better place to start than, historically and stereotypically as well, in Salem, Massachusetts. So he ends up taking a flight there and really ends up finding himself in a epic battle between fairies and vampires. And this is a war that's been going on for centuries. And it's really my take on fairies and vampires. So if you like old school horror, it's a black and white horror book. It's got a lot of great, really cool covers. There's an exclusive Kickstarter cover that the artist Christian Navarro just kind of sent me out of the blue, and I'm like, that's amazing. And ended up using that as a exclusive Kickstarter cover. And so that's really the story. Is just Luke being there. You know, he meets up with a fairy. There's kind of this romance there because fairies are, in my world, they are still very sexual beings, and this fairy pack is all women. There are fairy men. I just haven't introduced any yet, but
Mm.
they are still very beautiful, attractive women that they don't necessarily prey on humans the way vampires do.
Yeah.
And that's where I start to kind of peel back the layers of the onion in this story. Is we start to learn like how I develop fairies, like what are the stories behind the fairies, and what's the story behind my vampires. They are still vicious, they are bloodthirsty, but they are kind of the scum of all the magical creatures. Like they are in the bottom of the totem pole. Yes, they have the speed and the ferocity of typical vampires, but the other magical creatures in my universe are much stronger than them. So when it comes to just like strength, yes, all magical creatures are fast. Fairies are fast. Dragons are fast. In Ice Pick, I had angels and demons. Like they are still strong and fast, and they're part of the magical universe I created. But vampires are not. They're not like Interview with a Vampire. They're not the sexy, lovey kind of vampires. They don't sparkle. They are just kind of bottom feeders.
It's funny you should say that because not last Halloween I had Mike Wagner and Kelly Jones who were doing Dracula,
Yeah.
saying
Yes.
we don't want to romanticize the vampires. We don't want to romanticize Dracula because he's pure evil. He's dark.
Hmm.
So I think it's refreshing to hear something like that. But what you're describing is refreshing to me because again, Yeah, we've seen the whole, sexy vampires. We've seen that, but what media does not cover is just how dark they are, how monstrous they are, how
Mhm.
they're really demons. So it's refreshing to hear your take on that as well. So I'm very glad.
Yeah, thanks. And that's what I try to do as a writer. As being an indie writer, I try to not only tell a good story, obviously, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of blueprints out there that we can go through kind of the check boxes of, hey, this is what makes a good story. But I also try to, think of when I am researching characters, villains for the most part, you know, there's so many out there. I love the whole supernatural creature feature type of thing. I love monsters, monster
yeah,
movies, and stuff like that. So it's like there's so much material that's been done, and I kind of sit back and say, okay, what hasn't been done, or how can I put a twist on things? Honestly, like the show Supernatural, really, in a weird way, in X Files had this like kind of underlining huge influence on how I write my creatures or my
yeah,
enemies, because the villains, because they took a different spin on a lot of the different creatures and things. So it's just trying to think like just something a little bit different, give the fans something a little bit refreshing.
Another thing that you might also consider as an inspiration would be Kolchak, and this is the Night Stalker.
Huh, I'm not familiar with that.
You're not familiar with it? Okay, I just turned you on to something. This
Yeah.
is it. This was actually a novel by Jeff Rice, which was actually unfinished, but it turned into a TV movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can find this anywhere on streaming or even on YouTube for that matter. Just type in Night Strangler 1972.
Okay. I-
S- s- Yeah,
Okay.
so you'll definitely like it, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna message me back and saying, "Ian, it was fantastic. I thank you for turning me on to this."
Yeah.
Because what was interesting was Chris Carter, who's the creator of X Files, was actually influenced by that movie. So
Oh, well, that's cool. I always love the influences of people. I mean, as a writer, artist, kind of publisher, you know, unbashedly, I wear a lot of my influences on my sleeve, especially
yeah,
artwork wise. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting to see like a lot of the people we grew up with, whether it's artists or directors, producers, writers, musicians, like what are their influences, and
exactly.
how obvious it may or may not be that they're pulling things from other influences.
Yeah. What was also interesting about this television project was it was also written by the same author who did I Am Legend.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that movie was different,
Yeah, yeah,
you
exactly.
know. Yeah. So yeah, you could go down the rabbit hole of films, no matter how many movies. Obviously, you just brought one up that I've never heard of, right? But no
Yeah,
matter how big of a movie fan we are, there's always more films out there. There's always someone doing
exactly.
something that we probably would like. Same thing with comics. Same thing with
Yeah,
graphic novels or music. I go down the rabbit hole of music all the time. So I'm just one of those guys trying to tell good stories and entertain people.
exactly. I do have a question though. Luke obviously goes to Salem, Massachusetts. You obviously did research on that because I remember we talked about that a little bit the last time you were on. How much research did you do?
Well, I don't know how far we can go on research, but I was there for over a week. And my wife and I took a vacation there a couple years ago and fell in love with that town. And I had to say, because we took a vacation there, that was one of my big places. I was like, oh no, I need to write a story in Salem, because historically, and we did, unbashedly, we did a lot of the touristy things.
Yeah,
Um, we did like the ghost tours, and we ate at one of supposedly a haunted restaurant, and we took the last sail of the season out on a ship, like a privateer ship. And it was kind
wow,
of like her idea. She's like, she just saw a little kiosk and she was like, hey, what do they charge? Oh, that's not terrible. That's reasonable. And end up being like the last sail. And we were on a like 10 or 12 people were with us. And we get on this little privateer ship with a sail. It was like a sailboat. I got to raise the sails, which was kind of fun. Well, help. there was a bunch of us that were like raising the sails. So it was a lot of fun, and just the history in Salem is, to me, it's like unlike anything else. It's one of the first towns in this country, or I mean, one of the many, but I mean, it's a very, very early town in this country, and it's fascinating, the history. And then when you start putting in not just the witch trials, but like the privateers, which ended up becoming pirates. Like privateers were government, they were hired by the government to basically pillage other ships, and as long as they were enemies of the state, they could do all the things that the pirates were like illegally doing. They could do it for legally, and they had government contracts. And then it just kind of like morphed into, well, the government didn't want to be part of that, so then they started going solo, and that's where pirates really became pirates. They were enemies of our states. um and there's like a couple pirate museums. You get to see like the history of Blackbeard. So it's more than just like the witch trials and all of the tragedy that ensued. There's such a rich history in general in Salem.
Yeah.
So aside from being there for a week, I definitely, have read up and tried to do my due diligence. I didn't really, when I write like a specific place, um, Annabelle didn't have any. I mean, it was kind of Pacific Northwest. That's where I live. So there was a little bit of like kind of hinting at like going down this freeway in this time of day type of thing. But
Yeah.
with Luke, I'm not necessarily using Salem as like an historical uh, place where I'm going to start writing about all the history in Salem, where it's just a place that Luke goes to, and it's kind of like a set dressing, and I use it as a set dressing. I don't get into like, they don't talk about like, oh well, this happened here, or like the history of what's going on in the city so much, as in it's more like a touristy spot, and he just happens to be in this city.
It's perfectly fine. It's engaging, because again, we really see characters, in a regular environment like this.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, along the lines of not Gotham. I guess it would not be along the lines. I mean, there's some stories that are taking place in specific cities, uh, but I didn't want to like make up cities. I wanted
Yeah.
to keep it a little bit grounded, and that's what, even with Annabelle, like Ice Pick is very ambiguous. It's just, it's like the city he lives in. When I was drawing that book, I was using references from Seattle because that's where I was living, Pacific Northwest, buildings and things of that nature. But I never mentioned specifically that he was in any specific city. Again, hint a little bit at Annabelle, but I felt like this was the right city with the right story. It being a horror book, it being about fairies and vampires, and Luke is a descendant of a witch. So to me, I just kind of felt like all these things mixed together, Salem seems like the perfect backdrop for that type of story.
Yeah. So this is issue one. How many
Yeah,
issues are you planning?
we're gonna do four. And just like all the other books I've published so far, it's going to be a 4-issue miniseries. It's going to be a self-contained story. And then from there, we're going to really get back to the roots of what Dark Space Studio really is, and that's getting back to Ice Pick and having these three characters just kind of go on adventures, and whether they're fighting super villains or superheroes or supernatural things, like it's just going to be their adventures. But yeah, for right now, we're just going to focus on the 4 issues of Luke.
I just said it's pretty damn exciting.
Well, thanks. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun writing. It's a lot of fun seeing new art. I'm working with a really talented artist, Christian Navarro, who did the two covers, and then he's doing all the interiors. Oddly enough, I worked with him a few years ago, and it took me a minute where when I was scoping out artists for this book, I was like, I need someone that has striking black and white art, like
Yeah.
visual, strong black and white art. And there's another publisher in the Pacific Northwest that his I mean, I've seen him at shows. Hey, if you go to shows, you have your con buddies, right? It's
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
like con artists, but they're like convention buddies. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's the folks that you see every time you're at a convention. And there's this one publisher, and you end up becoming friends with them. You go out to dinner sometimes, and he's like, "Hey, would you mind coloring this book that he's writing?" And it was a witch themed, darker horror type of story. And I'm like, yeah, sure, this is my page rate. And we ended up, I worked 2 issues on the book for him. I think he went all black and white on the third issue. I'm not sure. And
yeah.
Christian was the artist for that book. And it was just super funny because I'm friends with him on Instagram, and I'm like, "Dude, this guy's artwork is phenomenal." I'm like, it looks really familiar. So I start scrolling through all his, like, we're talking like old posts going way, way back. And he was posting some of the black and whites from the book I colored. I'm like, that's why. Like, that's the guy. I'm like, absolutely, I need to find out what he charges. And he's pretty reasonable. And it's just it worked out.
Like what? Well, why don't we show them the Kickstarter?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. Okay. So there currently is $376 pledged for a $500 goal. Not bad. 9 backers, 16 days to go. All right. Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Wow.
yeah, he's phenomenal.
This is like, what is it? Was it 13 days of night? Something like
Oh,
that?
yeah, 30 days a night. I
30
mean,
days of night. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know who did that artwork, but what, maybe Templesmith, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's solid.
Okay. So this is obviously your cover.
Hmm.
Very, very nice, by the way.
Thank you. That's Christian's cover.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did the colors for that. So that's just something like multi-talented artist. Like he did the entire thing. When typically you would have like penciler, ink, or colorist.
Yeah. Jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this is good too.
Yeah, that's Courtney Rose and Dave Kemp. And they're a fantastic team. I've had them work on Annabelle covers, and they just do a great job.
Wow.
And that's Sergio Ray, who was the interior artist, and well, he did some covers as well. He did all the Annabelle covers, and he did the interior art. Now, this cover is more of a painterly style, so he
Yeah.
does more traditional, like black and white line art, comic book artwork, but then he also does this style as well.
Yeah, it's got a nice feel to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like reminds me of Goosebumps.
Yes, I was thinking about that myself.
Yeah,
Obviously, this is the Virgin cover.
yeah, and I like doing virgin covers. I think it's important for fans to have kind of variety. You know.
Yeah. Also, they just make great poster pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And these will be, hopefully, we get funded and maybe unlock a couple stretch goals. These will be little mini prints that will be part of the stretch goals. That obviously free stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see the Goosebumps
Yeah,
influence right here.
it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is the exclusive Kickstarter cover. So this will only be available through the Kickstarter. I will not be selling copies outside of the Kickstarter. I mean, I may get a copy for myself, but as far as like those that I try to keep at least one copy of every book that I publish for myself, cover
Yeah.
that is. But a lot of the variants I do just for fans, like these covers are only available really through Kickstarter. The other variants I will have like very limited quantities. This one I will not be printing extra. So if you like it, that's the one for the Kickstarter.
He's really good because he's really saying a lot without saying a lot.
I know. Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
I know. He's so good.
Look at this line art.
And I thought that there was a moment, very short-lived moment where he sent me the first couple pages and I was like, well, maybe I'll just color this. Maybe do spot coloring like blood or red or something of that nature. Trying to think
Yeah.
again a little bit outside the box. And I showed my wife and she's like, you do not touch this artwork. Like, this is so good by itself. She's like, I know you're good, but like, please, like, just let this be black and white. I was like, all right. And as I started coloring it, I realized that like in a way color will detract from some of this, and I just wanted
Yeah.
this to live, black and white.
He also reminds me of the book From Hell.
Oh, haven't heard of that either yet.
Okay, all right, Todd. You and I have to have a long conversation,
Yes,
at some of
yes,
these days because I got to introduce you to some of these things.
absolutely. I'm always open to new films or books and experiences. As much as I know there's like a gazillion more things I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is a graphic novel that was written by Alan Moore. It's based on
Okay.
the killings of Jack the Ripper.
Oh, now
Yeah,
that I
see,
gotta find. I'm gonna find that one for sure. I
yeah,
I, I
the,
really like Alan Moore's work.
yeah, and there's also a movie as well.
Okay, nice. And this is the reveal of the main vampire. Like she's the head vampire in Salem. That's the woman that Courtney Rose decided to draw. And it's interesting. I don't when I hire or reach out to cover artists, like I try to do my best, like to give them some direction. Like, here's all the reference for the characters. Okay, here's
Yeah,
the magic, or here's their superpower, or whatever it be. For costumes, it's a little bit more rigid. Where okay, this is what the costume looks like. Please adhere to that. But outside of costumes, which obviously I'm not showing, there no one has like superhero costumes. Luke is in plain clothing. The fairies are in plain clothing. This woman is dressed out of like the Renaissance in a way. Um, but I just really let the cover artist, kind of go with whatever they're feeling. I give them whatever pages I have of the book, and I will give them all these references. And so it's really nice just to see the variety of interpretations of characters. And I mean, Courtney did a fantastic job kind of interpreting this character.
yeah, yeah. This is very interesting. I would be surprised at some point at a convention somebody cosplays as these characters.
You know what? That would be an honor. I've had a couple fans reach out and say they want to cosplay as Ice Pick. Yet to see it, but challenge accepted for anybody that wants to do that. Please.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are, the stretch goals.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know we're 16 days away, but we gotta read some of these stretch goals. I mean, come on, guys.
Hey,
We
I'm
gotta get
hoping
some
to.
things. Yeah,
For the I will say, and I tossed this idea around for the Ice Pick trade paperback that I wrapped up a couple months ago. Um, as the campaign went on, we got funded and I think we unlocked one stretch goal. I basically said, hey, for every physical backer, I'm going to toss in a variant cover of Annabelle, a random variant cover. So that meant that you are getting a book anywhere that's, I think they were $15 to $25 were the variant covers. Because with the Annabelle book, I had, obviously that was a little bit spicier book. So I had
yeah,
a regular cover, a spicy cover, and then a spicy virgin. So you were getting one random book variant cover that so I'm considering doing that with this campaign too. So again, it's just something that fans enjoy. They like free stuff. It gives them issue any of the issues 1 through 4 of Annabelle. Like I-
Yeah.
covers, they're rare and they're limited. So
Okay, so the rewards. For this, obviously, $5. Luke issue 1 PDF of cover art by
mhm,
you. Then we have the $10, which is the physical copy.
mhm,
Very nice. Now this is the Virgin one, physical copy, $15.
mhm.
Now these two are very interesting. You should get $15 for both of these. One by the interior artist, Christian Navarro. The other one, a Baron cover artist, Courtney
Mhm.
Rose and David Kemp, both $15. Now this one, Sergio Ray,
Mhm.
$15. Now some of these are the Virgin ones without the lettering. It looks like $20 for each of
Yeah,
them.
all the virgins are 20.
Not these are not bad deals, folks. I would actually take advantage of some of these.
And there's bundles. I mean, I try to build a Kickstarter that offers something for everyone, you know.
Yeah. Okay, I was wondering about this one. All right, so this is you said this is a limited edition, $50. I think that's more than reasonable. Because again, limited edition, you never see this, anywhere outside, if
Yeah.
of the Kickstarter. So $50 is more than reasonable, folks. Now, sketch card artwork. Now this is $65, and this will be a sketch card done by you, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. You tell me what you want on it and I draw it.
That's a very dangerous combination for an artist because doing anything you want in there, oh, the
Yeah,
imagination goes nuts.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we have here all the covers of Luke issue 1. Obviously, covers A through E, not including the Virgin covers, $85. And this is including the limited edition one.
Yeah.
Okay, for this one, all the covers, issue 1 A through E, including the Virgin covers, 125. Okay, all right, yeah, yeah. I'm liking it. Okay, anytime I see original pencil cover art, A, that's always a must for hardcore fans.
I agree. And I feel it's probably cheaper than it should be, but it's there. So someone can take advantage of that price.
I think somebody should take advantage of that price because I've seen campaigns where it's a bit more.
Oh, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands, for some original art.
Exactly. And let's
Yeah.
face it, who would want original art from comics like this?
Yeah.
And the bottom here is the original ink cover art. Again, 150. Very reasonable. Obviously, we mentioned some of the teams here and all that. Very talented team, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Obviously, this is the risks and challenges. You guys pretty much know what's going in. You pretty much know what you're buying. Obviously, when you make your contributions to Kickstarters,
Yeah.
so you know where your money's going, and you got to get a great product at the end of it. Okay, so we got 16 days to go. Only 9 backers. I'm thinking somebody's going to be coming up with some backings today. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
this is the case, but yeah, I'm predicting something's going to happen. Something good's going to happen. But yeah, we got 16 days to go, guys. Back Luke Bloody Tooth issue one, just to see what is going on. It is fantastic artwork. I mean, seriously, especially you hardcore fans who love Ice Pick and Annabelle. Yeah, this is definitely something that's not to be missed. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, and I will say I have to double check here. So while we're looking, um, I think it's on the sidebar.
Okay,
As far as I did not get a chance yet, but I'm going to. Yeah, I added a bunch of other rewards. I just have to add them into the main body of the campaign.
okay.
Which yeah, actually I can do that on the fly while we're talking. Um, but I am offering Ice Pick original art covers, Annabelle original art, and um, a huge valuable bundle that has all the comics that I have ever published for 500.
Holy freaking crap!
I think it's like 50 books or 55 books or something. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah. So the original artwork for Ice Pick number one, 250, folks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And
That's the first cover. That I've never, I mean, the only way people would ever be able to see that or purchase that if they were interested is at a convention. And I only do maybe two a year. So extremely rare. If you're a fan of Ice Pick, that's definitely there it is.
wow. Okay, original eggs for Ice Pick, still 250. Very nice.
Yeah.
You got Annabelle issue one, original pencil art,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
250. The inks for Annabelle issue one,
Mm-hmm.
250 as well. And as you talked about, all the published comics in the studio, $500.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your wallets out, folks, because I think you're going to be doing some buying.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. I am doing a service to the fans, as I'd like to say, and giving them as much value as I can pack into something. In that way, th- it's there for them to support.
Yeah, I would say so.
And let's
So
see
when you get the
here.
chance, back Luke Bloody Tooth issue one today. The link is scrolling down below. It's been scrolling the whole time, so don't want to miss it. If you love
Eh,
vampires, witches, fairies, the supernatural stories, horror stories, this is the comic for you.
Yeah, and I will say I just updated everything. So if you refresh, you'll see those in the rewards. Large pictures of the rewards. Took me a hot minute to get all those in, but and that's the fun of doing a live show. We can just do things on the fly.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly. Why do you think I love doing with live shows? Ah,
yeah,
here we are. Here
there
we
you
are.
are. Yeah, so for old school fans, for new fans, if there's the collectors out there, I've had people come up to me at shows and are like, "Hey, are you a published artist?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." You know, and this is what I publish. And some people are like, "Oh, I'd rather it be Marvel, DC, or some of the bigger names." And I'm just like, "Okay, well,
Eh,
that's fine.
it's all right.
I'm still a
It's all right.
published
Yeah,
artist."
yeah, exactly.
So I just publish my own stuff, and hopefully, I will. I'm looking at getting into distribution later this year, so hopefully that will be just another avenue for the studio to take
Yeah,
to get books out there to the masses in a way. Like Kickstarter's nice, but it's to me there's a ceiling,
yeah,
and I mean there's a ceiling with distribution, but to me that ceiling is the world or comic shops around the world versus Kickstarter is global. I do ship internationally. So for
yeah,
anybody out there that's curious, uh, but I feel like even some of the biggest Kickstarters, like there's a saturation level. There's a lot of fans that don't buy books on Kickstarter. There's a lot
Yeah,
of fans that only buy on Kickstarter. So, I feel I will still be doing Kickstarters for new books, but because of the way I'm looking to get into distribution, you will have very exclusive Kickstarter only covers, and you will have retail exclusive covers.
yeah,
And that's just the way it's going to play out. So it'll be nice that, you know, they'll have those options, right? Life is about options. And I want to try to give that to fans that like support, like what I do, support what I do. So
absolutely. Todd, I can't thank you for coming on here, talking to us, and showing us this really great Kickstarter.
thank you. I always appreciate coming on. It's always good
Of
times.
course, of course. Before we go, folks, as always, I like to plug in my own stuff. Uh, as many of you remember, I have my own comic series under the brand Triple Threat Comics. It's codename Hunter. This is issue 1. It's available on indieplanet.com. I'm going to spend some time working on the Triple Threat Comics website next week, so you can be hearing updates for that. Here's issues 2 and 3. You'll be happy to report I just sent my inker, Enrique Lopez, the full uh, digital pencils of issue 4. So he's already going to be working his magic on that. We're looking at a release date, possibly July, August for issue 4, but we're going to be doing a Kickstarter ourselves, hopefully sometime next month. So I guess it's going to be like looking forward to that. So keep an eye out for that. And as my other thing, go to tpublic.com. You can find my storefront. Just type in Lillian Merch. You can find all these great designs with my 2 characters, Lil Ian, more comedic. It's pretty much a Looney Tunes version of me. Let's just put it like that. And Codename Hunter, of course. Now I know some of you are probably wondering, well, where's any updates for more Lil Ian merch? Well, I'm going to be doing a couple in the style of movie posters, specifically recreating classic movie posters in Lil Ian fashion. So get ready to see some summer blockbusters this year. And for those of you who are celebrating Father's Day or want to get your dad a gift, I would recommend this design. You can get this in t-shirts, coffee mugs, hats, sweatshirts, long sleeve shirts, even wall art. Yeah, and you get it in any color and size that you want. So just go to tpublic.com, type in Lil Ian merch, and you see my storefront. Well, I think that's going to be it for us for today. Todd, again, thank you for coming on to talk to us.
Anytime.
Absolutely. I'm Ian Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have a good day.